big old worm. First it was a little small. So what is it about today's me doing that is so much more dangerous than it was 30 years ago?
I don't think it's any more dangerous than 30 years ago. We're simply more aware of it and more paranoid of it is maybe a better word. Parents in general want to be super clean. They're always scrubbing counters with antibiotic, cleansers and so forth. There are even theories that we're living too clean these days, and so we don't have the resistance or the diversity of bacteria that maybe we had when we were back in the 1800s. Our cleanliness is a very positive thing. However, it could go too far and maybe limit us a bit. But yes, the parasites and in dirt you have anthrax and all of these things, but our body is able to handle those and not make us sick. I myself ate mud pies when I was a kid. I don't think kids can do that now.
Okay, thank you. All right, so the gentleman, yes. All right, a couple of things that was so interesting as you were talking. First I thought about how the sun is moving closer to the earth, where it's supposed to be even hotter than it was, again, I'm talking 30 years ago. And then I was I'm under the impression that Antarctic, for instance. Anyway, where all the ice is, that's why it's melting so much. And I love shellfish, okay? I love the clams, and everything like that. So as you were talking about the fresh water, you were talking about the toxins, okay? Is it because the water is warmer than it was once upon a time in the ocean? That's one question.
Okay, very good question. And I wanted to, before I answer your question, I wanted to comment on your comment to Alan. One of the issues you're asking about, is it okay to eat something off the ground? It really depends on where you live. If you live in the coastal zone, there are 5 times more people per land area. And so crowded conditions, whether it's a chicken farm, whatever it may be, when we crowd animals, that's where you breed antibiotic resistance and highly resistant pathogens. And so our coastal areas in the United States and around the world, they have 5 times more people per square mile, 5 times more pets, 5 times more pollution per land area if you look compared to inland counties in the coast in the United States. And so wherever you crowd things and you farm there, there's going to be different things there at much higher levels. So it really depends, and of course, globally, the world's population, half the world's population lives in the coastal zone. And so that's why some of these issues that we're talking about with seafood are so important, because half of the world's population lives in these areas where these are big issues. Now, getting to your question about what drives the resistance and some of the toxins that we're talking about, when we go to develop predictive models to predict these, we find that most of the models, like for Vibrio, are driven by temperature and salinity. When I showed you that model of increased occurrence of Vibrios, and that was in Winyah Bay, right behind, right there by Litchfield Beach, Polly's Island, right up the Waccamaw River. Basically, that model is driven by temperature and salinity changes. And so the salinity changes are caused by sea level rising, putting more salt water up into that river, as well as the increased temperature associated with climate change. You mentioned the Antarctic areas. You'll notice those most temperature extremes are in the Arctic, because we are driving temperature up there. And we're melting ice at a tremendous rate. One of my colleagues, Dr. Terry Biden, runs the Environmental Arctic Monitoring Program for Canada. The melting of the ice in the poles, we captured all the DDT that was produced in the world for the last 30, 40, 50, 60 years. It's melting, it's going to melt over the next 50 years. And they're getting fresh sources of DDT being brought into northern Canada, not from farmers, from the melting ice that sequestered all those pollutants in that ice. And so that in turn is going to have major impacts on exposure, because we've really captured most of the airborne pollution from the Industrial Revolution in that ice in the previous time period. So we're gonna melt a lot of that ice. And if you expose animals to some low levels of these chemicals like freshwater fish, these chemicals will lower their upper thermal tolerance by 5 degrees centigrade. So at the very